Mom Orangutan hands her baby to a visitor. What happened next will shock you. The morning mist clung to the jagged, moss-covered canopy of the Emerald Rainforest Pavilion in Southeast Asia, a sprawling 6-acre habitat that served as a masterpiece of modern primatology and a quiet cathedral for the natural world. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, crushed tropical fruit, and the heavy, humid promise of a monsoon rain that felt as if it had been pulled straight from the ancient heart of Borneo. Every vine, every hollow log, and every climbing rope in this enclosure was meticulously placed to recreate the cradle of the people of the forest, yet today, the atmosphere was devoid of its usual primal harmony. The footage that broke the hearts of millions and baffled the world's leading primatologists was captured on this very morning. It shows a scene that goes against every instinct written into the DNA of a great ape, a scene so unnatural that the camera operator admitted their hands were shaking as they recorded the digital history of a miracle. In the center of the frame, perched near the reinforced observation glass, is Suri, a majestic, 25-year-old orangutan. She is a matriarch known for her preternatural calm, her deep, soulful mahogany eyes, and a heart that has successfully nurtured 3 previous offspring into strong, independent adults. Suri knows that her baby is her entire world. In the wild, a mother orangutan will not let go of her infant for a single second during the first 2 years of life. They are a single, breathing unit. But in the video, Suri is doing the unthinkable. She is pressing her 6-month-old infant, Booty, against the small, specialized transfer mesh at the base of the glass. With a steady, deliberate motion, she maneuvers the tiny, orange-furred baby through the opening, literally handing her most precious possession to a complete stranger, a visitor named Clara, who had been sitting quietly by the glass for hours. Suri makes a soft, rhythmic smacking sound with her lips, a signal not of aggression, but of a desperate, pleading invitation. She is giving her baby away. She is handing her child to a human, looking into Clara's eyes with a gaze so heavy with grief and necessity that it felt like a silent scream for help. Before we reveal the breathtaking, soul-stirring way the truth was finally uncovered and the miracle that followed, remember to like and subscribe so you never miss another incredible story of animal intuition and the miracles of the wild. And please, let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. We love connecting with our global family of animal protectors and hearing your stories of the bonds that transcend words. Your support allows us to keep sharing the profound emotional lives of these magnificent beings. To understand the tragedy of that Tuesday, you have to go back to the beginning. Suri and Booty had been the perfect pair, the pride of the sanctuary's conservation program. For the first 5 months of Booty's life, he was a shadow baby, never more than an inch from Suri's warm, sunset-colored chest. They were a single unit of life, navigating the heights of the pavilion in a synchronized dance of trust. Then, on a Sunday afternoon, the shift happened. The sanctuary had been hit by a violent tropical storm the night before. Thunder had shaken the very foundations of the glass structure, and heavy winds had lashed against the enclosure with a fury that seemed personal. The next morning, the dynamic was shattered. Suri began to act erratically, glancing at her infant with a look of profound, localized terror every time he tried to touch her. She began to retreat into the lowest, darkest corners of the enclosure, places where orangutans, the masters of the high canopy, never venture. She sat in the damp mulch, her breath hitching, her massive, soulful eyes scanning the horizon as if waiting for a predator that only she could see. For the next 72 hours, Suri stopped climbing entirely. She ignored the fresh mangoes and bamboo shoots brought by the keepers. When Booty whimpered for milk, she would flinch, her entire body vibrating with a strange, high-frequency tremor. The lead keeper, Thomas, noticed that Suri was cradling her right hand as if it were a wounded bird, but there was no blood, no visible bone, no sign of the trauma that was clearly ravaging her spirit. When Clara, a regular visitor known for her calm, meditative presence, sat down that morning, the energy in the room shifted. Clara had survived her own tragedies, and she often said she felt a kinship with the silent strength of the orangutans. Suri didn't perform her usual greeting of swinging by to tap the glass. Instead, she let out a sharp, piercing kiss squeak and began the agonizing, slow-motion process of handing Budi over. She maneuvered his small, fragile body through the mesh with a precision that was terrifying to behold. The keepers watching from the high-definition monitors were in tears, paralyzed by the sight of a mother surrendering her soul. Usually, if a mother gives up her baby, it is a sign of cold biological rejection or terminal illness. But Suri wasn't pushing Budi away. She was placing him into Clara's hands with a tenderness that looked like a sacred, desperate handoff. She was asking a human to do what she believed she no longer could, keep her child alive. As Budi's small fingers left her fur for the last time, Suri let out a low, mournful moan, a sound of a mother's heart breaking in real time. She turned her back to the glass, huddled into a ball, and refused to look at the child she had just surrendered. She had chosen his life over her own happiness, believing she was a broken vessel, a danger to the very life she had brought into the world. By Tuesday morning, the situation was critical. Dr. Aris, the head veterinarian, moved in to retrieve the infant from the stunned visitor. Budi was screaming, a thin, thready sound that suggested he was nearing the end of his energy reserves. "It looks like a total maternal breakdown," Dr. Aris told the team during an emergency briefing, his voice heavy with defeat. "She perceives herself as a mortal danger to him. It's as if she believes her very presence is a curse. We have to sedate Suri and perform a full psychiatric and physical workup. If we don't intervene, Budi will starve from the stress of the separation, and Suri will lose her mind to whatever phantom she is fighting." The team moved in at 11 o'clock a.m. Suri, exhausted and shaking, barely reacted when the tranquilizer dart hit her shoulder. She simply looked at Budi in the vet's arms one last time, a look of profound, weary sadness, and slumped over onto the mulch as the drug took hold. It was a scene of absolute heartbreak, a family torn apart by a mystery that seemed to have no answer. Dr. Aris entered the medical suite, his mind racing with possibilities of brain tumors or sensory processing disorders. He checked Budi first. The infant was physically flawless, though his heart rate was through the roof from the confusion of being handled by humans. The baby reached out with his tiny, leathery fingers, grasping at the air as if searching for the orange fur that had been his only world. Then they rolled the 150-pound Suri onto the table. They checked her milk. It was rich, creamy, and healthy. There was no reason for the baby to be hungry. They checked her brain. The scans were clear, showing no signs of the neurological decay they had feared. Then, as the team was about to give up, Dr. Aris noticed a subtle, almost invisible irregularity in the way the orange fur lay across Suri's right palm and wrist, the very hand she used to cradle Budi's head and support his small back when he nursed. "Shave this area," he ordered, his voice tight with a sudden, intuitive hunch. As the nurse buzzed away the thick orange hair, the shocking truth finally emerged. Hidden deep beneath the leathery, calloused skin of her palm was a jagged 2-inch shard of conductive copper, debris from a high-voltage, lightning-struck junction box that had exploded during the storm. Suri had stepped on it in the dark, and in her frantic attempt to pull it out, the metal had become embedded deep in the nerves and muscle of her hand. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The investigation by the sanctuary's electricians later revealed that the copper was carrying a residual, microscopic static charge from the massive electrical surge of the storm. The realization hit the room like a physical blow. Every time Suri touched her baby, every time she tried to pull him close to her heart, she was inadvertently delivering a tiny, sharp, and terrifying electrical shock to his sensitive infant skin. She had realized that her touch, the very thing meant to be his sanctuary, his shield against the world, was causing him pain. She didn't have the tools to remove the metal, and she couldn't explain the invisible sting to the keepers. In a display of sacrificial intelligence that shattered every textbook on primate behavior, Suri had decided that the only way to protect her son was to give him to the only creatures she knew could perform miracles, the humans. She had watched them heal others. She had seen them with their tools, and she chose to trust them with her heart. She was handing him over not because she didn't want him, but because she loved him enough to let him go to save him from her own touch. She was choosing a lifetime of loneliness over a single moment of causing him harm. The clinic went silent as the gravity of her sacrifice settled over the team. Dr. Aris finished the surgery, removing the copper shard and neutralizing the infection that had begun to form around the foreign object. During the 4 agonizing days of her recovery, Budi was kept in a nursery where he could see Suri through a glass partition. The infant's amber eyes never left his mother, his tiny hands pressing against the glass in a mirror of the moment she had handed him away. He refused to play with the enrichment toys. He only watched, waiting for the mother who had saved him by leaving him. The silence in the observation room during those 4 days was heavy with the weight of what the staff had witnessed. Thomas, the lead keeper, sat by Budi's incubator every night, whispering to him that his mother hadn't left him because of anything he had done. He watched the infant's breathing patterns, noting that Budi only seemed to calm down when the staff played recordings of Suri's rhythmic, healthy heartbeat. It was a reminder that the bond between them was not just physical, it was a connection that resonated in the very frequency of their souls. The reunion was a moment that moved the millions who eventually saw the footage to uncontrollable tears. When Suri was finally cleared and returned to the clearing, she didn't reach for Budi immediately. She was afraid. She held out her hand, the healed hand, and waited, her body tensed for the rejection she expected. Budi didn't hesitate. He sniffed the air, his small nostrils flaring, sensing the absence of the metallic pain scent of the electricity. With a joyous, chirping hoot, he launched himself across the clearing and buried his face in Suri's neck. Suri let out a long, shuddering sigh and wrapped her powerful, now painless arms around him. The handoff was over. The bond was restored, stronger and more profound than it had ever been. As the weeks passed, the staff observed a change in Suri. She was no longer just a mother. She was a sentinel. She checked Budi's skin constantly, her touch lighter and more deliberate than before. And Budi, once a shy infant, became incredibly brave, often leading his mother to the high ropes, as if to prove to her that they were both safe now. The story of their separation had become a story of an unbreakable tether. They were seen sharing quiet moments in the high canopy, Suri grooming Budi with an intensity that seemed to apologize for every millisecond of pain she had unintentionally caused. The shard of copper now sits in a glass case in the sanctuary's lobby, a reminder that sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to ask for help from those who watch over us. It stands as a testament to the bridge of trust between humans and the magnificent people of the forest. Every time a visitor passes that case, they are reminded that the wild is not just about survival, but about the profound, thinking hearts that beat within it. It serves as a lesson to the world that even in our darkest moments of fear and confusion, love provides a path through the storm. Dr. Aris often reflects on that day when he leads tours through the medical wing, We see the anatomy, the biology, the chemistry, he says, but Suri taught us about the spirit. She taught us that a mother's intuition is a force of nature that can rewrite the stars. The Sanctuary of the Silver Mists has since become a global leader in specialized primate trauma care, all because one orange mother decided that her child's safety was worth the ultimate price of her own presence. Today, if you visit the sanctuary, you might see them sitting together in the high branches. It is raining again, just like that Tuesday. But this time, Suri and Booty are sitting side by side. Booty is resting his head on Suri's shoulder, and Suri's long hand is resting gently on Booty's back. There is no screaming, no biting, and no fear. There is only the rhythmic sound of the rain and the steady, synchronized breathing of two hearts that almost broke, but instead found a way to heal. They are safe, they are whole, and most importantly, they are finally pain-free. If Suri's incredible sacrifice and the hidden truth behind her behavior touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share this story with someone who needs to know that animals are capable of a love that goes far beyond instinct, and tell us in the comments, do you think animals have a sixth sense for when they need human help? We would love to hear your experiences and your stories of the bonds that connect us all. Thank you for being part of our journey into the heart of the wild. We'll see you in the next story, where the wonders of nature continue to prove that love is the strongest force on Earth.